everybody. We're excited for what will be a really great evening of cannabis science and networking with some of the top leaders advocating for equity and access in the cannabis industry in Massachusetts. We have a great lineup of experts, a panel today, and over 12 different organizations in the cannabis community in Massachusetts that are participating today, and we're really grateful for their support and their leadership. My name is Dr. Mary McNabb, and I'm the CEO and co-founder with my colleague Randall McCaffrey of Cannabis Community Care and Research Network. C3RN is a social justice-oriented company that focuses on advancing the science and research related to cannabis. Historically, researchers, academics, and healthcare providers have faced financial and regulatory hurdles that severely limits the ability to conduct cannabis-focused research studies. At C3RN, we're working hard to change this reality and have spent the last year advocating at the state and local levels to include research licenses. Today marks the start of the 3-day-long public debate of the Cannabis Control Commission about the draft regulatory framework, and I want to thank Commissioner Title for being here. It's a long day for her. So really appreciate your presence. One of the most important discussions here in Massachusetts in the cannabis industry is ensuring equity. An equity that supports small business and big business, but ensures economic empowerment is at the forefront for a diverse and inclusive industry. Many key populations of focus include those disproportionately affected by the drug war, women, veterans, disabled, LGBTQ, low-income, minority, and other populations, key populations. We're grateful for the experts who have come here tonight to share their knowledge and ideas about how to advance research and best practices to move the field forward. As a science and data geek that I am, and in the spirit of tonight's event, we asked you all to text in a question. And you can see behind us the results of that question. So we asked, what is the most interesting research topic to you? And it appears that 43% are mainly interested in cannabis cultivation. So we're excited. We have a lot of experts in cannabis cultivation in the room here, and a lot of organizations. So we'll hope that this will be a great networking opportunity for you all. Tonight's Cannabis Community First Science and Skills Fair is the second in a series of 6 monthly events, all focused on advancing cannabis research and science. This event tonight is intended to spark open and respectful and honest dialogue around evidence and best practices. You can think about it like a design think tank. So there's no dumb questions. Feel free to ask and learn, and this is a creative learning environment. We are recording this event, and we'll be posting the video content for free for download after the event, and we will prepare a report that we will share with all the attendees. In addition to the event series, C3RN also supports designing research studies. And if you're interested in working with us or on any of these future event series, come find any of our staff. As an academic myself, I've been in academia for over 15 years. I've been fortunate enough to design many educational courses and trainings, and ranging from teaching community health workers in Haiti and Nigeria to design mobile applications and support healthcare to establishing and designing 2 master's level courses at Boston University School of Public Health, where I received my DRPH. So it's with this rooted academic background and expertise in our team members that we are very interested in supporting education and very grateful that Roxbury Community College is the host for this very important event. So with that, we will have a few opening remarks from some key speakers, and then we will move to the panel discussion. And now I'd like to introduce the president of Roxbury Community College, Dr. Valerie Robertson.
Thank you so much. I'm pleased to have you here at the college, and especially for a group like this. When you look at the title, Community Cares, Research, Innovative Thought, these are all the principles that we represent here at Roxbury Community College. And we are pleased to have this opportunity for dialogue and also to think about issues of people getting into this field, people being able to earn a livable wage and support themselves and their families. These are the things, again, that Roxbury cares about, And again, it's a perfect forum for thought and innovation. So enjoy the evening and thank you. Please come again to Roxbury Community College.
Thank you, Dr. Robinson. Really, it's a beautiful theater. I'm really grateful to be here today. Now I'd like to introduce as a strategic advisor of Cannabis Community Care and Research Network, Kim Napoli. In the spirit of education and innovation, C3RN has launched a student scholarship campaign and may face financial barriers to allow students to come here tonight. With grateful support of all of the sponsors of our event series, we were able to offer over 100 tickets and encourage students to come to this event. We will also be having the student scholarship program go throughout our whole event series. So if you know any more students or you are a student, keep coming back. We'll try and get you in for free. So with that, I'd like to introduce Kim Napoli to come and give a few remarks.
You guys hear me? So my name is Kim Napoli. I am an attorney. I'm a Cannabis Advisory Board member. I'm the Director of Diversity Programs at New England Treatment Access. I'm also a Roxbury resident. I live in Dudley Square, and it's the greatest neighborhood on the planet. I come to cannabis by way of hemp, which started about 15 years ago or more now, because I'm 100 years old, at the Freedom Rally on the Boston Commons in '95. Back then, I came to the Commons that day, and I said, what is this? What's going on? And my friend said to me, they're trying to legalize weed. And I just looked at her and was like, you are absolutely insane. This is never going to happen. Fast forward to 2016 when I became the Director of Outreach for the campaign to legalize marijuana in Massachusetts. And well, here we are today. So, you know, as a business owner in the industry also, I founded the Hemp in Harvard Square in 2006 with the purpose of bringing hemp back to the marketplace. The one thing I can say that is missing is education amongst every facet. The people who come into the store, the people we talk to in the campaign, the people in the community, they want to know more, and that's why you guys are here today. I had the great honor of being a judge at the BU Buzz Lab and Green Line Partners competition to sponsor businesses for which C3RN was a winner. And you know, we went back to deliberate, and after hearing the presentations, and it was just so clear of all of the very, very good competitors that night. The one thing that we needed was education. There was just no second. It was clear. C3RN was it. So I have been honored to become a part of this wonderful organization that is designed to bring people in and educate them, allow them to ask the questions, and we give you those answers as best we can. And we learn from this too. So this is an event, this is an opportunity for us all to share what we know and to educate others, and that is how you foster understanding, that is how you normalize cannabis, that's how you make it equal and give access to everyone. Roxbury Community College is a great institution. It does wonderful things for the neighborhood and for the people here, and I'm happy to say that through my position at NETA, I've been able to work on developing an internship and scholarship program for kids and students and adults to come and work with us to learn the ins and outs of the industry, because it's not just about ownership. It's not just about walking in and saying, I want to own a place. You need to know how to own a place. You need to know how to be a good business person, cultivate cannabis, work behind the counter, do HR. All these things are very important, and you're not born with it. So for me, this is step one, what you guys have done today. And I think it's just a great opportunity for everyone. And I encourage you to continue to take advantage of this and to tell your friends and to bring them and keep learning everything you can. Thank you all for coming.
Now it is my extreme pleasure to introduce Tito Jackson, the former mayoral candidate for Boston and now senior fellow for the parenting journey.
Thank you so much. I want to give a huge shout out to Dr. Roberson. I want to thank her for her leadership in partnering with this venerable organization. Let's give it up one more time for Dr. Roberson and Roxbury Community College. In addition, I want to give it up for Dr. McNabb and C3RN and the great work that her and her organization are doing. The women are making it happen in this field. Let's give it up for them. I came to this journey not as some others have come to this. I actually, on 4/20/2016, I endorsed question 4. Thank you so much. And I endorsed it because of the issue of justice and equality. We need to actually tell the truth and shame the devil when it comes to the fact that this plant is still in the category of heroin, of cocaine, and other illicit drugs. While at the same time, we can all go to CVS right now and get a tablet of OxyContin, hydrocodone, Dilaudid, any of those other products. So we need to be very thoughtful about what we're doing in this space and in this industry. And my message to you tonight is the cavalry is not coming. The cavalry is not coming. All of the leaders, all of the doers, all of the heroes and sheroes that we need are in this room right now. When it comes, people who were in the position that I was in as a legislator at another level at the State House did not have the backbone that the people in this room have tonight, and they were unwilling to put forward legislation that would decriminalize and stop the flow of largely men and women of color into the prison system. Now let's get down to some numbers. It's $54,000 a year to lock somebody up in Suffolk County. $54,000 a year. And in fact, we have about 3,000 people who get out of jail every year and come back to Suffolk County, and more than half of them actually go back. We have an opportunity to change what's happening in that space and make some things happen that are different. Let's also speak about this issue of the healthcare inequality that we have in our city of Boston. So we are in Roxbury right now, the center of the universe for me.
Yeah.
Roxbury is the physical center of the city of Boston. And from Roxbury to Back Bay, there is a 33-year difference in life expectancy. If you live in Back Bay, you live to 91.9 years old. If you live in Roxbury, you live to 58.9 years old. That disparity is, actually 58.9 is lower than the life expectancy of Cambodia and Iraq. That's right here in our city of Boston, and we have an opportunity to actually change that. And one of the things I wanted to do a little visual tonight, can you actually help me out? So this is a roll of quarters. So there's another health care disparity and connected disparity that we have. Can you give, there's 4, and another 4. Can you pass those out on the panel? Don't take them. No. Pass them out on the panel. That's my friend Tashonda Vincent Lee. Let's give it up for Tashonda. She's going to be our hostess with the mostest tonight. And I passed out 8 quarters. Okay, you can keep those. You can keep those. And the reason why I passed out 8 quarters, because we live in a city that has some of the highest income inequality in the United States of America. 3 years ago, we were number 1. 2 years ago, we were number 3, and this year we're number 7. But the reason why we're number 7 is because we're pushing poor families out of the city of Boston. In the city of Boston, a white family has a median net worth. So your net worth is how much you own minus how much you owe. We won't get into that part. How much you own minus how much you owe. White families in Boston have a net worth of $247,500. Black families in Boston have a net worth of $8. $8. So what we have an opportunity to do in this field is to close the economic disparities that exist in the city of Boston, in the state of Massachusetts, and in the United States of America. If we are not proactive about this, then we will end up like Denver, Colorado, where there is one black-owned dispensary out of all of the dispensaries there, and there is over a 50% increase in arrests of black males in Denver, Colorado over the past year. And why did that happen? Because they were excluded from this industry. That is an industry that I believe should be looked at as the new innovation economy. It should be looked at as the new green economy in the state of Massachusetts. And this is the future of our state, our city, and the economy in which we currently live in. I'll just end with, I just want to give props to the people who are sitting up here. These individuals are not new jacks. They're not, and these are people who put their necks out, who put their careers on the line, who put their reputations on the line, who had folks talk about them. Actually, they still talk about them. And I hope they have some bulletproof vests and arrow-proof vests in the back, because they have been at the forefront as people have been trying to take them down. This is a group of people who have moved our state forward. Again, I just end with the way that I started. The cavalry is not coming. We are not here because elected officials voted on this in the State House and took a proactive approach to this. We are here because this organization and you as individuals practice democracy. And when elected officials wouldn't do it, you stepped forward and did it for them. Please, please, please continue to practice that democracy. As people are trying to take away what the law says, which is there should be delivery-only businesses, we need to make sure that our voices are heard. We need to make sure that the people at the lowest level have an opportunity to get into this space, because the people at the highest level will always have that opportunity. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to you. And one more time, let's give it up for C3RN.
Now, I'd like to turn to the panel. We are really grateful for these industry leaders to be here tonight, and a fantastic moderator. And I will start with introducing each of the speakers, and then I'll hand it over to our moderator. So I'll start with Commissioner Shalene Title. Thank you again for being here today. Commissioner Title was appointed by the Governor, Treasurer, and Attorney General of Massachusetts to the Cannabis Control Commission in September last year. Title previously helped connect marijuana businesses with employees and co-founded the THC Staffing Group, an inclusion-focused marijuana industry recruiting firm. Shalene is an attorney specializing in marijuana regulations and helped draft the laws and provided expertise for leading consulting firms in the past. She's won several awards for her efforts to bring women and people of color into drug policy reform, including the Hunter Thompson Young Attorney Award and the High Times Freedom Fighter Award. Shalene is also a trustee for Students for Sensible Drug Policy and the founding board member of the Minority Cannabis Association and Marijuana Majority. Thank you, Shalene, for being here. Shalene, we have Ellen Brown. She is the president of Sensimelia Seminars, or the founder and president, the first traveling cannabis education curriculum in New England. In the last decade, she's taught thousands of students, patients, caregivers from all over the country, ranging from large classroom settings to freelance consulting. Ellen's teaching background started in the United States Air Force, where she achieved Air Combat Command, Nutritional Airman of the Year in 2008. She's a prominent voice in the cannabis community and has spoken at several venues, such as the Freedom Rally, Hemp Fest, and the High Times Jamaica Cannabis Cup. Coming from Humboldt, Ellen started growing in 2010 in the Emerald Triangle. So everybody, she knows what she's talking about. She was a lead cultivator and manager of a dispensary in Northern California and has cultivated, consulted, and managed dispensaries on the East Coast. Ellen's extensive knowledge and firsthand industry experience makes her a sought-after cannabis expert. Thank you, Ellen. And next, we have Chanel Lindsay. Chanel Lindsay is the founder and president of Ardent Cannabis and Cannabis Control Commission Advisory Board member and long-running advocate. As the founder and president of Ardent, a Boston-based biotechnology company, Chanel combines her entrepreneurial interest with experience as a practicing attorney to affect change in the cannabis industry and bring solutions to medical cannabis patients. Chanel was an author of and spokesperson for the successful ballot initiative that made cannabis legal for adults over the age of 21. In July, she was appointed to the Massachusetts Cannabis Advisory Board by the State Treasurer, Deborah Goldberg. Chanel also serves on the board of advisors to a Canadian incubator fund, Northbud, which invests exclusively in the cannabis industry. She remains involved in the development of marijuana laws and new businesses in Massachusetts and is a frequent expert speaker. Always focused on creating and empowering a diverse and inclusive industry, she co-founded Equal Opportunities Now, which successfully fought to preserve the equity conditions in the new Massachusetts cannabis law, and still does. And also started the Northeastern Cannabis Coalition, a multidisciplinary group of business owners, professionals dedicated to ensuring that innovation and access are critical features. Thank you, Chanel. And next to Chanel, we have Sonia Espinoza, the co-founder of the Massachusetts Recreational Consumer Council. Prior to graduating with Harvard's class of 2016, Sonia helped co-found the Cannabis Cultural Association, an organization which strives to involve underrepresented communities in the legal cannabis hemp industry in New York. Currently, Sonia is focused on MRCC, whose efforts seek to bridge the gap between communities and local legislators. Aside from MRCC, Sonia runs Eat Me Land, a cannabis femme art tech collective. Sonia's past work includes Vice Magazine's editorial department, New Hampshire Dispensary Edible Department, as well as Women Grow. Thank you so much. Next, we have Eric Martin. Eric Martin is a Super Bowl champion, Patriot Super Bowl champion. He's a Super Bowl champion and former Canadian football defensive end for the Canadian Football League. He played college football in Nebraska, and in 2014 was signed on to the Patriots and won the Super Bowl. Eric is now an active cannabis entrepreneur and advocate for football players and access to cannabis as a medical alternative. Thank you, Eric, for being here. Next to Eric, we have Stephen Mandile, the president and founder of Veterans Alternative Healing. Stephen Mandile was injured in Iraq while serving as the sergeant in the Army MA, Army NG in 2005, which led him into 10 years being prescribed 57 different medications, including 9 different opioids by the Veterans Health Administration. As quote, "All I wanted was to be a good husband to my wife, a good father to my 2 toddler daughters. Instead, I only spent a few hours a day out of my bed, and those hours were spent in a dark depression that led to my attempted suicide." Stephen credits the success of his long-term recovery of 28 months and getting through the hell of withdrawals to cannabis, and his wife Jessica, who pleaded with him to try alternative healing. Cannabis helps him with chronic pain from his spinal cord injury, migraines, and also helps him with his brain injury and PTSD. That change kicked off his activism and advocacy of breaking the stigma on many issues surrounding those affected by addiction. His compassion and insight stemming from these lived experiences has sought him after as a thought leader by state and federal legislators, private businesses, and the nonprofit community that are dedicated to the issues of veterans and those suffering from the opioid epidemic. Thank you, Steve. Stellar lineup. And now, last but not least, I would like to introduce our fearless and wonderful colleague and moderator, Tashonda Vincent-Lee. Yay! Tashonda is a strategic change maker in her community with the ability to connect values-based ambitions with goal-driven plans. She's the co-founder of Elevate New England, an organization that promotes education, professional networking, and equity within the cannabis industry. Most recently, Tashonda provided guidance and support as a campaign manager for Boston mayoral candidate Tito Jackson. She is an activist and former speaker for the Massachusetts Cannabis Reform Coalition, MassCan Normal, and Tashonda served as a user service technician in the IT industry prior to this. She has earned her Bachelor's of Arts in Psychology and a Master's of Arts in Teaching from North Carolina University, so holds the same love of education that we do. So with that, I'll hand it over to Tashonda and enjoy the panel.
Thank you, Dr. McNabb. I'd like to extend a sincere thank you to the Cannabis Community Care and Research Network for organizing this evening's event, and to RCC for being such wonderful hosts. And another huge thank you to our panelists and our audience members. As Dr. McNabb mentioned, I am your moderator this evening, Tashonda Vincent-Lee, co-founder of Elevate New England. My friends are in the audience. Hi, friends. And also cannabis advocate and patients. And as she mentioned, I was recently the campaign manager for Tito Jackson. This evening, we've come together to discuss personally three of my favorite things: research, equity, and cannabis. So more formally, we'll be discussing research gaps, models, and best practices for advancing equitable employment and medical cannabis access in Massachusetts. So we'll begin with a few questions for the panel, and then after which we'll transition and we'll take some audience and text questions. So I'd like to begin with, to my left, since you're right here, I might as well start with you, Commissioner. Commissioner title as a regulatory guru and ever internal community activist. What data and or metric do you often wish existed that could be used to aid you as a commissioner when advocating for policies and regulations that promote equity and access in the adult use and medical marijuana programs?
I think there's two, actually. The first one is in the criminal justice system, it's really hard to determine how marijuana crimes have been used to result in various consequences and punishments. And so when we talk about people who have been incarcerated, when we talk about people who have been incarcerated, you will see our opponents to legalization often state that there is nobody incarcerated for marijuana, but that's because it's so often done as a probation violation or some kind of strike or some other type of enhancement. And so when we don't have that kind of data, we're not able to write into marijuana laws that we would then let people out of prison or otherwise have some kind of expungement or vacate their convictions in some way. So I wish I had that data. The one thing that we can do is pay very close attention to district attorney elections, which happen every 4 years, and they are happening this year. And I think every candidate for district attorney in each county should be asked if they would follow the lead of cities like Seattle and San Francisco and Philadelphia and vacate convictions for marijuana crimes. The second one is when it comes to equity in the cannabis business, there's very little data there. And as anyone who may have attended or watched the commission meeting today saw, when you are discussing certain benefits or priority for people from various marginalized groups that has to be based on business data primarily. The good news is when you have an entirely new program or government agency, as tends to be the case when you have a new cannabis law, if people insist, as they did in Massachusetts, that the data be collected from the beginning, then we'll be able to track exactly how many people from each group, from each race, from each gender, each sexual orientation, disabled people, so on and so forth, are in the industry, and if there are barriers to entry or if there is discrimination in some way, you would be able to take remedial measures. So I think those are the two most important data sets that I want to see.
6 minutes, we'll leave that on. Thank you very much. Eric. Eric's a little nervous, guys. This is his first time doing the panel. Can we clap it up for Eric? We love you. So, Eric, as a former Patriots Super Bowl champion and player in the Canadian Football League, what data and research information do you wish existed that could help you in your advocacy efforts to encourage league officials to allow cannabis use amongst players?
I personally think it's hard to for athletes to present themselves as a cannabis user in this time of age because of the way cannabis is affecting people, the way they see it. And that's one of the things that makes it hard for athletes to, you don't know who's using it. You don't know if athletes are using it, right? You guys don't know that. And me, I used it a lot. And one of the things the reason why I used it was nerve-wracking playing in the league. I mean, come out of college, you're young, and you're meeting guys that's 30 years old, been lifting weights all their life, and they're, bigger than you. So you get real nervous, your first year. And one of the things that most of us rookies did was smoke. And I'm being as blunt as possible because it's true. Like we get, just like how you guys get nervous for an interview or whatever. It's the same thing we go through, and they also do a lot of rookie hazing. Like they make us, sit in front of people, sit in front of the team and read events out loud. And then, you got a lot of players that's like from the South who don't speak, a lot. And so, they have a hard time presenting. And so they get real nervous and they smoke before it. So I had a few roommates that did that when I was with the Saints. And, that's some of the things. Or, another example is, as a rookie, you play in a team and, your coach tells you like, hey, you're gonna be going against one of the best players this week at your position. As a rookie, you're like, what? You want me to do it? So it's one of them type deals, you're nervous the whole week because the coach is telling you like, this is the best guy, you gotta play hard, you gotta be ready, So you go home and you watching film on him and you're like, dang, this dude really is good. And, you're just trying to sit in the room and, not panic and not think about it. So another thing we do is you smoke. So that's kind of where I think the NFL should really allow players to do it because, we're stressed, we're very stressed, coming in, especially you're fighting for a position. If you wasn't a first round draft pick, I wasn't first round, I was undrafted. So I'm fighting to keep a spot, and I ended up doing it. I ended up fighting to keep a spot, and one of the ways that helped me was cannabis. Relaxing myself prior to the game, beginning of the game, just trying to find the right focus and not be too nervous. That's what I did, and it didn't affect my gameplay. Like I played a lot. I hit my head a lot. I had 3 concussions, and that after having concussions, you realize cannabis is something you want to speak up about. It's definitely a lifesaver for concussions, and it's proven. And 99% of the players, well, they did a study at Boston University. I'm sure you guys know this. They did a study, 202 brains, 99% of the NFL players were diagnosed with CTE. And that's pretty rough seeing as how I've been in the league. And you think about it, and you sit up every day and you like, do I have it, do I not? And then you watch the movie Concussion, you see the symptoms. Like, just how y'all watch the movie Concussion, I did too. And I'm the one playing in the league, so imagine how I was sitting in the seat watching the movie like, this could possibly happen to me. That moment, you realize you need to stand up for what's right. And the NFL needs to allow players to use it. I mean, use it to the right way. Not just for, just fun, but understanding what players are going through, stressful, whether it's stress, whether it's concussions, whether it's anything, injuries, knees, all that. I'm sure he can vouch for me too. PTSD, dealing with a lot of stuff, memories, stuff like that, man. It's all into it, and cannabis helps so much. Once again, I want to thank C3RN, everybody for letting me come down. Sorry, I'm nervous. I'm talking a lot now.
You did an excellent job, Ed. And whomever gave your teammate a hard time for being a Southerner, you tell them I said come speak to me. Because Southerners' tongues matter too. We speak as well. Thank you so much for that. My next question is for Chanel. Chanel, as an attorney and co-drafter of Massachusetts adult use cannabis legislation, what was or is the most commonly used data point your opposition used against your arguments when advocating for medical and/or industry access?
I think the 2 points that the opposition tries to twist are fear tactic points, and I think that they stem around public safety. I think driving and cannabis is probably the #1 scare tactic that's used, and I think that it's a difficult one because for people who don't understand how cannabis metabolizes in the body, it's very easy to point to numbers. For example, we heard recently that there were folks who were trying to equate the fact that there were increased number of drivers who showed cannabis metabolites in their system involved in car crashes since legalization. And while that fact is true, there's no correlation between metabolites being in the body and actually being impaired at the time of driving, right? Because metabolites can be in the body for up to 30 days. And of course, when you have legal cannabis, there are more people using it legally. But I've seen that data point and others like it used in order to argue against a whole variety of things like social consumption, cannabis generally, medical marijuana. So I think that is one particular point. And there's another one that I thought of when you first asked the question. There's this idea that no one's really being impacted for cannabis. And that, this is something that police don't care about. And in some cases, in some places, that is true. Unfortunately, it's not our communities where that's true. And I think that when you look very closely, what people tend to overlook is that you can't even look at just arrests or prosecution statistics. You need to realize that when people encounter police over marijuana, or not just police, but school officials or any number, or their boss, there are all these ramifications for cannabis that exist, and disproportionately to people of color and poor people as well. And I think that being able to point to arrest rates going down doesn't give a full picture of what's actually happening, even after legalization, when people are still being impacted in their homes or being evicted or losing out opportunities or facing other consequences.
Thank you so much for that. Definitely gives us an insight of what's still happening in our communities, despite the picture that's often painted for us. So make sure that we're all doing our due diligence and making sure that we're staying well versed on our current events, what's happening in the news, as well as, I tell you, one of my biggest things I always tell people, get active, get involved. You can't sit at home and just wait for the information to find you. You have to go out and find it. So thank you again for that, Chanel. Ellen, I have a question for you.
Yes.
As the founder of Sensimilia Seminars, an organization focused on empowering everyone to become their own best advocates by offering seminars to promote cannabis education in particular areas of interest. What advice would you offer to a student, a researcher, or a member of the community looking to become involved in the cannabis industry? And you know I asked you that, right? Because you have the highest polling question right there about cultivation, so I think that would be the question.
So for getting into the cannabis industry, it starts with you. It starts right now, doesn't it? It starts with you being here at this conference. What's great about having events like this is you're able to network and you're able to see how other people have started maybe a couple months or a year prior to you, and they've gone so very far. Elevate New England started a couple months ago, and already it's one of the premier events in education here in New England. The Healing Rose is here, and they started up about a year ago, and she's in almost every state in New England and moving and growing. And it starts from being in the audience and realizing, well, what do I want to do in this space, in this industry? Do I want to be the cultivator? Do I want to be an extraction artist? Do I want to be making the cannabis byproducts, whether or not it's edibles, oils, tinctures, keefs, hashes? And then what are the laws and the bylaws to my state? So getting involved and getting active is going to be one of the best things you can do for being a part of the cannabis industry, is really networking. It's not that big of an industry. It's actually very small. You can call somebody, and we know everyone in each state, and we're all active and working together to make sure our medical and our recreational program here in Massachusetts is one of the best, by looking to see, well, what are they doing in California? What are they doing in Colorado? So just realizing that the only barrier is kind of the one you put in your own mind of, well, I can't do this, or maybe, or this or that. If I listened to all the don'ts in the world, I would never be here today. So when I told my family I was joining the Air Force, they said, well, that's for boys. And then when I told them, I swear to you, and then I said, well, I'm leaving, and I went. And then when I told them I was going to California for cannabis in 2010, they said, that's crazy, what are you doing? And then I went, and I was able to I started as a trimmer. I started with any entry-level position I could take, and then I worked my way up to a bud tender, and then I became the manager. And then they needed help in the grow room. So you know what I was? I was a lackey. I'll sweep, I'll take cuttings, I'll do whatever you need. And then I worked my way up, and then I became one of the lead cultivators. And I took all of that education and all of that firsthand experience and created classes and curriculum for here in New England. We have different laws and different restrictions, even state by state. We're so fortunate here in Massachusetts that we're able to cultivate under our medical and our recreational program. They don't even have that in Connecticut. They're not allowed to home grow under their medical law. So just knowing what state you're in and what's conducive for what it is you want to achieve is going to set yourself up for success. And if your state doesn't have it, don't leave and go somewhere where it is possible maybe, but stick it out, hold your ground, and then start being active and advocating for that change. There is going to hopefully be home cultivation in Connecticut in the next year to 3 to 5 years. If you keep at it, you can't just give up. California has one of the best medical programs in the country, and when I come here, that's what I want to have here. I want it to be able to, every person to, if you grow amazing cannabis, you should be able to get that cannabis tested and then to the dispensaries, which is something you can't do here, but you can do that in another state. So why is it one state will allow for it and another state won't allow for it? In California, if you make the best edibles, oils, tinctures, keef, hashes, you can again then to the dispensaries or become a caregiver and take care of people and be able to take care of not only yourself, your family, your community. And that's really what it's all about. If you have heart, if you have passion, there's a place for you. And all of us on this panel want to talk to you. Every person at that booth wants to talk to you. It starts with educating yourself and just keep talking and keep working. And you can be anything you want to be. I joke that like an outdoor plant, the sky's the limit.
Thank Sonia, next question is for you. Where's your face? Hey. So, as a co-founder of the Massachusetts Recreational Consumer Council, a nonprofit seeking to ensure the safety of recreational marijuana consumers by bridging the gaps between communities, local legislators, and the local business industry, what data or research do you feel should be conducted and published that could better aid you in your advocacy for equity and access in the cannabis industry?
So right now, I just want to give a really, really big shout out to Shalene Title for all the work that she's done in the commission. These 3 days, including today, were very, very huge. They were historic days because legalization only happens once. And the way that it's implemented is very important because it sets the foundation of what possibilities exist. And if you, as a consumer, are not showing up to these public hearings that are made public for you, then you are not advocating for yourself. And you need to show up because you can't expect the regulations to build themselves. You have to be part of that process. And so in these 3 days, there are public policy debates where all 5 commissioners, including Shalene, are debating the policies that will affect us. And something that is definitely, actually data today was a really big point talking about delivery systems. How many of you would like to have an Uber for weed like we have Drizzly for alcohol? Exactly. So that is a data point right there. Your hand, you raising your hand. And the commission needs to see that because part of the reason why there is such a holdback from some of the commissioners is that there's just not enough data about what delivery could look like. Is it safe? Or even with social consumption. You know, as Chanel mentioned, there is a huge, huge pullback because of a fear of people walking around high and, you know, killing people. Meanwhile, alcohol causes more deaths. And, you know, when I was in college, I remember seeing a lot of my friends, specifically freshman year, have to get an ambulance because they overdosed on alcohol. And meanwhile, the schools, like, you know, they fund alcohol parties or they provide food if you're having alcohol parties, but if you're caught with weed, you can get expelled. You can get expelled. So it's very important for us to show up and to be present to make sure that, you know, we represent the data points that we want to be there. Because, I mean, even if you look at the poll that recently came up, data is so tricky because, yes, it's great and it's amazing, but depending on who it's representing, it can really change a lot of things. So I would urge you to go to these public policy debates. There's another one tomorrow at 10 a.m. There's another one on Wednesday at 10 a.m. And be the data point that you want to represent.
Thank you so much. Steven, I won't call out your nickname. I have a nickname for Steve, but we're friends, so I won't use it in mixed company. As a local member of the United States veteran community, what is the main data point or research would you yourself feel would be most advantageous to you when advocating for veteran and patient access?
Thank you for that great question. And for answering, thank you to Cannabis Community Care and Research Network. Thank you to everyone on the panel for being here. Thank you to Roxbury Community College. I love coming out to Roxbury and helping out in the community. Always great people, so I'm just glad to be here. And I can actually say that cannabis brought me to college, because without cannabis, no one would be asking me to talk to college. So I got cannabis. One of the biggest data points, and I feel bad that it was voted last, but I'm going to talk about opioids anyways. is we're in the middle of a crisis in America with overdoses and drugs. Last year, 2016 alone, drugs killed more people than a 19-year Vietnam War in 1 year. In 1 year. 40,000 of those were opioids, and I believe it was a quarter of those or more were prescribed opioids. And I have met hundreds of people since I defeated opioids and came out of my zombie state and started talking to everyone. And the thing I noticed most was I was never talking to anyone that had their life ruined from cannabis. Everyone I talked to had their life ruined from opioids, from a prescription, from when they were a kid, from a party they were at when it was coming out. And the one thing I can't battle with a stat is this whole gateway drug thing. When I talk to people, I tell them Big League Chew was my gateway. I went from Big League Chew at like 13 to dip to alcohol. So I to think of it as a gateway is just, it's nonsense. With everyone that has pain, all the patients I know, all the veterans I know, we have pain that we're trying to heal from. We don't expect to be who we were before. We don't expect to be perfect, but we do want the care that we were promised when we signed up, saying, yeah, I'll go die for all of you. So you promise us healthcare, that sounds like a good deal. Then we get back, and it's just pill after pill after pill, and it was 57 medications, fentanyl for 5 years. That stuff is a killer. No one gets a better quality of life from taking that garbage. And I was very judgmental of cannabis myself. I was a retention NCO, so I got to drug test everyone on the weekends and picking up people AWOL. And my wife told me about it. I took a step back and I was, how dare you? You think I want to be a pothead judging it and being just an asshole about it? And then I'm looking at these booklets I would get with my medications talking about what I am taking. I'm like, well, I'll be darned. I'm taking medical heroin, so what could be worse? I'll switch over to medical marijuana. And 5 months after, this is gonna take a while. 5 months after telling my doctor, I'm getting off of this stuff, you're helping me, I'm tapering off. 5 months I was off of that junk and just like, how do I feel again, I've never talked to anyone on those drugs that were like, yeah, I'm going and things are getting better, I'm going to my doctors, we're talking about things and things are getting better. I never hear about that. When I'm around places and other veterans, I'm always worried about opioids, and I always have Narcan on me because of that. Because there's so many, I think for every person that's taking an opioid, you're affecting 22 people, a stat like that. Sit, come here, stat guy, come here. And I just think, I try to argue things with stats, and then they're like, well, there's no proof. And it's like, you're talking to someone that was able to do that, and I'm not special. I know so many more people that have been through more than me. I know, I've got friends that I've lost to this drug. I've got friends I've lost to the drugs that we can't reach out to right now, and it hurts my mind thinking about this idea that we're going to go and get better by taking these pills and talking to someone, because I would show up, go in and talk to my therapist, getting there was hard enough, and then I'd take a couple Xanax before I go in and even talk. And like, what do you want to talk about? Like, nothing. We're not going to get better by doing that. I take a lot of pride in the fact that on the panel talking about equity, that I'm the 40-year-old white guy up here talking about it, because the reason why I started with the Yes I'm For campaign was looking at those stats, at who's being locked up for what, and it just made no sense to me that these people aren't hurting anybody. Any minority group, it's just like, people trying to get better, and that's all this is about. That's all cannabis is about. There's no reports of colleges where, there's assault on women and stuff like that from cannabis, but look at the alcohol problem, look at the binge drinking, look at the pill popping. Are we getting any better? No. So on our state levels, on our federal levels, look at the people, like all of us are here, we all voted. Remember who in your sound, city, district was against us. Time to get rid of those people. Don't keep voting those people in. Don't keep saying, wow, what are we doing to me? What have you done to me? Go out there and vote and make it your choice. And thank you. Thanks again, everyone.
Thank you, Steve, for your service. I think that's really important, so thank you for your service. Thank you also, Ellen, for your service. Thank you so much for putting your life on the line for us. So we're at the point of our discussion where we can begin to accept audience questions, as well as we'll take and I'll read some of the text questions as well.
Okay, we'll go back here.
Hi, this message is for this question is for Chanel. In regards to when the cops pull people over and they have they're checking for certain substances, are they checking for other substances besides alcohol and cannabis, like prescription drugs or opiates, or are they selective in how they screen their blood work?
I know that they're definitely looking for alcohol and THC. I'm not sure whether or not they screen for opiates and heroin. Does anybody, do you know? I'm not quite sure whether they do or not.
You know what I mean by that?
I do. Whether or not that to what level, how granular are they getting in these tests? Are they looking to see whether people are, do we know that? Do you know?
I can answer that question if you want.
I think we got somebody over here.
Hi, I'm a criminal defense lawyer. They can't blood test you when they pull you over. That's not within their bounds. They can't make you blow into something either if you choose not to. They can't make you do a field sobriety test if you choose not to. They either have probable cause or they don't have it at the moment that they stop you if you choose to give them no further information. So that's the short answer to your question and what I would advocate you do. But the longer answer is if you want to, you can blow into a breathalyzer. Oftentimes they have those on them. And if you fail, then that's probable cause.
That wasn't the point of the question. It wasn't, they're assuming causation for THC in accidents, and they're only selecting certain substances to look for. What other substances could actually be causing the causation, like opiates or...
Okay, so you're asking a different question about what they can test for when you go into the hospital. And when you go into the hospital, that's another question. I'll happily answer that, but I don't want to...
No, I think the question is related to the specific data points in the studies that I referenced that are talking about seeing an increase in THC metabolites in the accident cases that they studied. And I think we have to look deeper into that particular study to determine whether or not they had adjusted that or had taken into account other pieces. So maybe we can put that study up on the website and people will be able to take a look after.
So we have a question here from polleverywhere.com, and it is, I want to enter the industry, but I'm not sure where to start. What are some good opportunities for young people to pursue in the cannabis industry when they're just getting out of school?
This is a great question. There are so many volunteer opportunities here in the cannabis industry, especially if you're looking for like-minded individuals. If you're fresh out of college or in school, you can look to Students for Sensible Drug Policy in Massachusetts. We have MassCan. They put together the Boston Freedom Rally. There's also Elevate New England. There's this fantastic event. So just looking at, are there any connecting points or any organizations that you want to work with, like maybe Veteran Alternative Healing, Or is there nothing where you are? Maybe you're the person who wants to start it. Do you want to become the resource? You don't have to become part of a group or become part of an already fixed organization. You can start your own organization off of your fundamental beliefs and your core values, and then you'll find other people that want to work with you. So if you're looking into getting into this industry, there are a lot of great events coming up. There's the New England Cannabis Convention is coming up. There's Extravaganza is coming up, which is actually put on by Students for Sensible Drug Policy. So start looking around, and Facebook is a really great place. Social media has a lot of different events popping up. So start going to events that align with what you want to do in the industry. And if those events aren't there, if the laws are conducive for it, create those events.
Thank you. I would also encourage, I'm not sure who asked the question, but don't be afraid to volunteer. You may find it beneficial to volunteer for certain businesses or organizations. And you may not know what you want to do, but kind of through trial and error, you may figure out what it is that you don't necessarily like to do, but would be interested in doing. So I would encourage you to volunteer for sure. Do we have another question?
Yeah, we do right here, Shonda.
Hi. So if you look at what's going on a state level versus a national level, where a lot of states are legalizing medical, etc., while on a federal level, it's still highly illegal. It's classified like cocaine and heroin with no medical benefits, and an administration comes in and they're a little bit crazy, a little bit wacky. What's going on? But what can we do? What can I do to help move this to a federal level? Because there's just a discrepancy of what's going on, and it has me worried if I'm going to become a home cultivator on a federal level, I could still get in trouble for that.
I'll pass this to Commissioner Tyler. Are you comfortable taking the question?
That's a pretty direct answer, which is that this is completely in control of Congress. And I can say, as a policymaker, when people call or email me every day politely, they're always in the front of my mind, and there's a definite cognitive bias there. I think that you think a lot of people are really interested in that topic, and so call Massachusetts senators and your representatives. Call them on the phone, don't email them. Call and talk to the staffer, and that will get back to them, and it will make a difference. As boring as it sounds, it really, truly does work. Sure.
So actually, Jeff Sessions is in the process of being sued right now by 5 different plaintiffs.
Isn't your organization a part of that lawsuit, by the way?
Yeah, so the Cannabis Cultural Association, along with a 12-year-old kid, Marvin Washington, who's also in the NFL, and a vet, are all suing Jeff Sessions to descheduleize marijuana from a Schedule I drug completely off. They're aiming to completely deschedule it. They just had their first hearing Valentine's Day, actually. They sued Jeff Sessions on Valentine's Day. So stay updated on that and give those supports, give those groups your support. Look them up on Facebook. Send them messages to encourage them, because this is a lot of work. But also at the same time, I personally don't know if we should be so eager to legalize federally right away until we create a really strong local economy. Because legalization and deschedulization of the drug, removing it as a Schedule I drug, allows for imports and exports from states to different states. And if we don't have a strong local economy, I can guarantee you that there's not going to be a local economy. That it's going to be companies, from California, Oregon, mass producing, shipping to the Massachusetts. So before we get super excited about federal legalization, I think we should really work locally to create some sort of local economy, and definitely, like Shalene said, call the people in Massachusetts that are against it, like, Charlie Baker and Mayor Marty Walsh. They are pushing back on delivery systems, they're pushing back on social consumption sites, and these are the people that are here locally impacting your industry. So give them a call. You're probably going to talk to their aide, but it really does make a difference.
Let me add one thing to that too, and emphasize what you were saying. You know, how many states now have legal medical? And we have it pretty good in Massachusetts, but as someone that's 100% disabled on disability benefits and Social Security, I still can't go to a dispensary in Massachusetts. I'm still priced out of dispensaries here. As I'm here talking about it, yeah, he knows when I get angry, I'm afraid I'm gonna Hulk out or something, but look at it this way. What are you gonna go to DC with? Whose blueprint are you gonna take up there? Because no one's done it right yet. And let's focus on Massachusetts, where so much great has been done for the country since its beginning, and let's get it done right here. You know, it almost cost me too much to look online at prices where, you know, I want to see a place that has veterans offering them for $2 a gram for flower. Instead, it's $20, $25. I can't get in there. You know how easy it is for me take care of my family, take care of my kids. If I went back on opioids, no problem. But because I'm trying to get cannabis, you know, I'm going illicit market. I can't afford anything here. I'm happy to come and talk to everyone here, but I'm the old guy here. I'm also, I can't go to a dispensary. I have my card for what? To look at, so when a police officer pulls me over, I can tell them I have my card. When I'm already gonna get in trouble anyways, besides that, yeah, I think let's focus on Massachusetts. Make it right here. Call your representatives. Don't help people that aren't helping people. There's so many people out there offering to help people, but everywhere I go, it's the first time they've heard of it. You know, there's no one, you are your biggest advocate. No one can tell your story. You have to. So get off of your computer, get off of your phone, and do it. Don't be like, how can I do it? People come to me, how can I help? Like, I don't know. How can you help? What do you want to do? I don't know. Like, don't come to me. I'm trying to raise 2 little girls. I can't raise a bunch of adults too. Like, you look at, like, that's how good. Sid's over here running around, so there you can see. I can't even keep a dog in control, but it's just that. It's going out and doing it. Like, you know, I'm afraid to come out and talk. I have to get medicated before I come out and stuff, but whatever, you know, it's the risk is worth it. What am I gonna do? What are we gonna do? We're gonna let 22 veterans die every day? Are we gonna let hundreds of people overdose on opioids every day? Or, you know, and we'll send our thoughts and prayers on Facebook and nothing changes? Like, that stuff is BS. Get out and do it. And if you need to ask what it is or say you want to be involved, get specific. Figure out what it is you can do. I figured out I don't have money, can't donate money. I'm trying to grow, but again, don't have money, can't do that. I'm big and I'm loud. I'll go out, I'll be seen, I'll make noise. So, you know, like I said, I'm here now because of this. And don't get too caught up in just cannabis. Get caught up in what it allows you to do. Because for me, it's a life changer. I'm not here talking to you. I'm not here doing anything without it. I should be dead. Iraq tried to kill me. VA tried to kill me, but I'm still here, you know, and it doesn't take much to tank of gas to get here. That was it. And you can just call on your phone, like she said. Don't email, call, walk in. That state house, that's our house. We pay for that. I slept outside of it for a week because I didn't know I needed to go in there and talk to people. Now, you know, I go in there and the guards are like, hey, Steve, you want a coffee? And it's like, man, like, I get job offers and stuff. It's like, well, you know what? I'd love to work with you, help you out, but I can't even pass your drug test. So how am I gonna help you? That's all. Sorry, anyway.
Eric, we have a text question for you. Don't you find it strange that the Controlled Substance Act states cannabis is a substance with no known medicinal use, yet in sports like the NFL and mixed martial arts, it's a performing enhancing drug?
Probably one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. I mean, it's I don't even know how to explain it. Like, the stuff that they say about cannabis is just so far off, especially when it comes to sports and cannabis. It's hand in hand. You guys know cannabis is a great benefit to your body, your muscles, everything, your brain, everything. It helps so much in being an athlete that I decided, why not come out here and speak for it. You guys know I played in the Super Bowl. Well, I didn't play in it, but I've witnessed very great players, very great players from the year 2014 play in the Super Bowl. And I can tell you, they used it. And a lot of players do, and we should. And it's because it's, like I said, it's stressful. It's a stressful job. It's one of the most stressful jobs in the world because you got almost everybody in here watches football. Raise your hand if you watch football. Exactly. So, yeah, not anymore. But yeah, you guys all watch football. You guys all see athletes get hurt. You guys all see them get concussions. You guys seen Gronk get hit by the dude from, what was the playoff game right before the Super Bowl? Yeah, Jacksonville. The safety came down and hit him and knocked him out. And you guys seen, he got up. You guys seen the way he looked. I've been there 3 times. I had 3 concussions in 3 years. Now that's basically a death sentence in the league from the owners, from the coaches. Like once you hit 3 concussions, they're like, yeah, we're done with you. You're done. Like, you were making, your salary, your annual salary was $500,000 a year, but you got too many concussions, so we're just gonna finish you right here. So that jump from going from making a lot of money to all of a sudden making no money, all because of a doctor said, hey, his concussion was too severe for him to go back out and play. You guys don't realize I've been doing this all my life. Like football is all I know. X's and O's on the board, that's what I know. I know how to tackle people. I know how to, be aggressive, stuff like that. That's been running through my blood since my freshman year in high school. And it got me everywhere I wanted to be. It got me to college, University of Nebraska. I graduated, Cornhusker. And but look out for us this year too. Scott Frost is gonna take us to the championship. I'm just telling y'all that right now. But yeah, like it's just got me so far in life. Football has, and it's crazy that all of a sudden, because of me enjoying the sport, it punished me. It gave me 3 concussions, and now I use cannabis a lot to help with my migraines. Like he has migraines, I have migraines. I've been through a severe depression. He talks about depression. I've been through depression. My brother's right there in the stands. He's right there, and he'll tell you like it was hard for me to make the transition from making a lot of money to making no money, and trying to figure out what I want to do with my life. All I know is football. In college, I didn't go to college for school. I went to it for school, but that wasn't my main focus. My main focus was get to the league, get to the NFL team. So it's like when I got to the NFL team and I made it, now I'm focused on staying. And then unfortunately, that's what happened, my concussion. So it's like now, what do I do? Where do I go? Now I'm stressed, trying to figure out what income I can obtain. So I'm doing a little job on the side now. It's like, what do you do? And the league don't care. They don't care. I can go get some pills though. I can tell you that right now. I can go get oxy for anybody in here. But it's the truth. I can. But I can't go get cannabis. They ain't gonna give me no cannabis. They're not gonna. If I go up there and ask them, tell the doctor like, hey, I don't want no painkillers. I want cannabis. They're just gonna look at me like, no. So it's like that's terrible. That's so wrong because players need it. We go through depression. We are depressed after football's over. We don't know what to do because that's all we've been doing since high school, since growing up in Pee Wee. That's what we was taught, play football. But when it comes to end, what do we do now? And that's the stress that a lot of players deal with after football. And cannabis helps with that stress. Helps you to survive the next day, get through the day without, with your family, without feeling like a disgrace because your career is over. Because the same people who was cheering you on when you was making that tackle on Sunday at 1 o'clock, they don't hit you up no more. They don't hit you up and be like, hey, well, how's your Sunday? No, they watching the next person make the tackle. So that's how I feel about the NFL and cannabis together. Yes.
Thank you, Eric.
Hey, this is John. I think that question over here.
Okay.
My name is David. I'm a deaf person, and I have a question for you on the panel, to basically anybody. There are a lot of deaf people, a lot of people in the deaf community and disability community, and there are about 130,000 people in Massachusetts that are in the deaf and disabled community. So when I'm looking at the numbers in that community, and then I'm also looking at how many people use cannabis in the state, I'm looking at the disparity between licensure and insurance and the lack of insurance covering this medicine. Because if you go into a store, or if you go into a dispensary with a license, it seems like the prices are expensive. Plus you have to pay for the actual license of a couple $100. And now this is for medicinal purposes, it's not necessarily recreational. But I'm wondering why the licensure can't be a little more cost effective. Maybe kind of like you pay your insurance premiums. If you're paying $50 for a license versus $200 and some odd dollars. They're making a lot of money on these licenses, and I don't know why when recreational marijuana is out for the public, that can't be, people for recreational uses can't be charged that, versus people who might be sick or needing this as medicine. It doesn't really make sense to me that someone who requires medicine would be, and maybe in a different socioeconomic status, would have to pay more money when they really have no budget to work with anyway. And having the licensure be much more expensive means that people are just going to go out on the street and buy it. And, you know, if you need it for medicine and you can't afford to get it at the dispensary or the license fees, it's just going to send people back to the streets and possibly have criminal issues to deal with. So I'm just wondering why the price is the way it is for medicinal licenses.
Chanel.
So I think that that's a great question, and I think that the cost for patients absolutely stems from the fact that when medical marijuana passed here in Massachusetts, there was a incredibly slow and essentially neglectful rollout of the program, and patients did not have access. Not only that, there were not dispensaries open to sustain and keep patients from having a fee. So the fees that are involved for patients right now is a $50 fee for the state, but then there's also the fact that the patient needs to get a recommendation. And very, very few doctors in the state are actually licensed or approved to write recommendations, and most of those folks are charged for those recommendations. So unless you're a patient who is incredibly lucky and happens to have one of the few doctors already that's their primary care doctor that's able to write this recommendation, you're looking at that fee. On top of that, as Stephen mentioned, dispensary prices are quite high. That's another reason why we wanted to push for more dispensaries being open and also for adult use. I think that one of the key components to adult use here in Massachusetts was ensuring that there would be variety in the type of material that was available. And on top of that, one thing that happened when medical marijuana was implemented is there were some key provisions that didn't actually materialize, like caregivers for patients. And so you had folks whose lifetime work was creating medicine that at a low cost that would be able to treat patients they were no longer able to access patients unless they were doing it in an unregulated manner and in danger to themselves. And I think that when we look at the new adult use law, the things like co-ops and the ability to grow at home create new pathways for people and patients, and the ability to gift up to an ounce of cannabis allows the individual person to go or have a friend or a family member that's able to produce this medicine at a much lower cost. So I think, in my opinion, those are some of the solutions, but it absolutely is a problem, access for patients. And there certainly are groups out there right now that exist to give patients, to give, I mean, I know several caregivers out there and people who grow at home whose mission it is to provide low-cost, high-quality medicine to patients at an affordable price. But it is largely something that at that cost point that's being done privately by individuals. And I think that one thing that we can do is obviously, as a community, urge and somewhat demand dispensaries to provide as many low-cost options as possible. And there are some dispensaries that do provide discounts to patients who can show that need.
Thank you.
Can I add one thing? Sorry.
No, yes.
Fine. No, I think the simple answer is because we let it happen. Look at how normalized opioids and all the pharmaceuticals are. You walk past makeup, hairspray, soap, Easter candy, every sort of holiday candy when you walk into a CVS to go get your meds. I mean, it's usually right, the pharmacy is usually right next to the freaking baby food. And look, there's nothing in the dispensary. There's no way for them to make any sort of money besides what they grow, and it's so regulated. I think the simple thing is we let it be that way, and it's up to us to make it change. And I think making sure you call and we strengthen this medical, and we make sure we cut something out from the rec to go towards these patients that, I mean, I keep hearing about these programs and stuff, but again, giving me 10% off of what I need for $800 a week, and I can't, you know, so we have to make it realistic for people like myself that are on Social Security, on disability benefits, and have some sort of, I guess, like niche for ourselves, because no one's taking care of us in the disabled community. We're gonna have to do it ourselves, and we're all strong enough to do that.
So this is a real, I think this is a good question. How do the lower income and minority individuals find the funding to start a manufacturing or distribution cannabis business? Who do we reach out to that won't own what we hope to build? I told you it was serious.
I'm looking for that answer myself. Haven't found it yet. Everybody, I mean, don't leave anything, don't be like, I wonder, don't wonder, find out. You know, there's so many times where again, I try to leave my comfort zone as much as I can, and it's like, I don't know the answer. Well, that's not good enough anymore, you know? So ask everyone, bother your banks, make everyone say no to you. That's all you can do, unless you won't know. If you don't ask the question, you'll never get an answer.
Shana?
Thankfully, licensing fees are very low. So that is a benefit right there. I think that one thing that has helped me in my business, and it's not a licensed business, but it's a business where I had to grow and create and launch a product with very, very, very little capital, is get creative. I think that at this point, there are folks and there are certainly going to be pathways that are specific to people who have been incarcerated previously and people who qualify as equity applicants. I think that there are certainly sources of funding that are looking to support these businesses. When you take funding, if you're strong and you think you can take it as a loan, that's a way to make sure that you're going to always own your underlying, property. You can also look for interesting collaborations with landlords. One of the biggest pieces of getting a licensed business is securing the property. So if you can find a landlord that's willing to work with you and come up with some revenue sharing plan or something else like that to give you a lower rent or to give you some runway when you're looking to get your license, right? Because sometimes there's several months before you apply, before you get your license, and that can be a real drain on resources. So if you can find some partners to get the financing in some non-traditional ways, that also is an opportunity. And now, they mentioned that I'm on the advisory board for Northwood in Canada. There are groups that are looking specifically at, they call it the ball caps and hoodies of the industry. Those of us who have been part of the industry and are looking for a pathway forward. And people understand that a lot of times that's where the expertise lies in this industry. And being able to move forward and get capital is difficult, but I think that there are some interesting things brewing as well. People and folks that want to get together and throw money together for this. So I'm confident as we continue over these next couple of months to look and educate folks and bring people out that there will be some additional funding sources available.
I would add, I first of all agree with everything Chanel said. I would add to that, certainly the commission is taking steps so that there's some additional technical assistance and help available for people pursuing licenses that touch the plants. I would suggest thinking more broadly in terms of other businesses. When I started my recruiting firm, there weren't really no cannabis recruiting firms out there, and it was a very low capital opportunity. We just needed a license to recruit in Massachusetts, which was very inexpensive. And then beyond that, just having a vision makes such a difference because there's so many things that you can complain about. And this is gonna sound so cliche, but just like bear with me for a minute. When we started thinking about legalization, in the mid-2000s at the state level, we didn't just have prohibitionists against us. We had so many people that were just saying it's never going to happen. Like Kim mentioned in her opening speech, there were so many people just saying like, that's just not, you're never going to let that happen. Then we did medical, and they said, just stick to the politically savvy conditions, like AIDS and cancer, like as though people with anxiety don't deserve to access medical cannabis. And then it became, just be happy with decrim because no one's ever going to legalize it. And then it became, legalize it, but don't look at opening stores because nobody's ever going to want to open stores. That's crazy. And literally today, I'm getting feedback that says just leave it to the stores. You can't have delivery. It just goes on and on and on. You have to come up with your own vision and decide that's the way it's going to be. And everything will come to you, and opportunities will come to you, and funding will come to you, and your vision will come to you.
Thank you.
Everything that was just said, and basically 3 steps. Show up, network, and start building. Show up to events like this, but not just to events like this. Show up to the Cannabis Control Commission public hearings. Network with not just the people in the room, but also with the Cannabis Control Commissioners, and let them know what you specifically need. And start building. When I started being part of the cannabis industry, I actually wanted to make my own edible company. And I quickly realized that if I didn't have the ability to impact the law, that I would be written out of the law. So it's very, above all, advocate for yourself, advocate for the laws that you want, because it's important to network within our, the business and the industry, but it's just as important to network and advocate for yourself with the people that are writing these laws. If you do all of those 3 things, your dreams will come true.
So thank you everyone for joining us this evening for C3RN's Cannabis First event. Let's have a round of applause for our esteemed panelists, special guests, and our wonderful host at Roxbury Community College, and a special thank you to the audience for being here. Next, we'll have an introduction with interactive learning stations and closing remarks from Cannabis Community Care Research Network's co-founder, Randy McCaffrey.
All right, thank you, Deshonda. Have another round of applause for everybody up here. Thank you so much, guys. It's fantastic. So just a quick plug about our next event. It's on March 29th, and it's going to be research collaborations from seed to bedside with speakers from the medical research and cannabis industry. So if you like this event, please join us next month. I'll try to make it even cooler. Let's have a good rest of our evening, all right?